to Talk of the Town. I'm Kim Piazza.
And I'm Phil Arno. And Kim?
Yes.
I get upset when my kids walk out of the room and leave the lights on.
Yes.
I don't like waste. Imagine how I feel when I think about the county spending and the government, the U.S. government.
I imagine you don't feel very good about that, Phil.
Government spending is a real problem. Former Oklahoma Republican Senator Thomas Coburn famously released an annual waste book that had some amazing national statistics. For instance, the government is paying for cell phone service for 16.5 million Americans.
There was a study once commissioned to study interactions between fake squirrels and snakes that cost $325,000.
Copper pennies, worth just 1 cent, but cost 2 cents to produce.
And a $1 million in research was spent to see if male fruit flies would be attracted to older female fruit flies. The result? The study was inconclusive.
Joining us in studio is Stefan Mihailo, County Controller, to talk about our county budget and the county spending. What about the county budget? Is it in much better shape than it used to be in terms of waste?
Yeah, it certainly is, and I don't like when the lights are on either at County Hall, state for the record. But yeah, we're in much better shape. I mean, I know with the federal government, it's a $3 trillion budget, and those examples that you listed before, it really makes people angry because as a public servant, those aren't my tax dollars, they're yours. They belong to the people. And so we can go back to the red-green budget crisis of 2004, 2005. It's hard to believe it was 10 years ago. But if you think about how much money those politicians blew, there was $350 million in tobacco money. And then we had a surplus 10 years ago of $200 million. And those politicians blew through all of that cash and created the red-green budget crisis. Why? Because they spent too much. Period. And so now I'm happy to report that 10 years later, we are on much more solid financial footing. There are instances of fraud, waste, and abuse at the county level, but not as bad as you see with a $3 trillion budget at the federal level. And we've been able to bring back our fund balance, basically the county's rainy day account, our savings account, to a little bit less than $100 million. That being said, we still have a budget of about $1.4 billion, and there are cases of waste, fraud, and abuse. What I try to do is to mitigate that as controller and actually try to put in, and this is a shocking example, but to bring in private sector principles to government to save money. And I think that's where we see a lot of the waste and inefficiency at County Hall is before not having a lot of the private sector principles in there.
Why is there such a reaction to this notion that you would bring in a private sector approach?
It's a culture shock, because the one thing we always hear in county government when I first came in was, well, it's the only way we've done it before. And that was shocking to me. I mean, for example, in the Office of Erie County Controller, I wanted to lead by example. So the first audit that we did, our review, was of my own office. And sure enough, we found waste within the Office of Erie County Controller. For example, we had 6 separate banks conducting all of our county business. It was ridiculous, because even to pay our bills, we'd have to constantly transfer money within our 6 separate accounts just to make sure that we had money in accounts to pay our bills.
I think I read that you were spending more in fees to pay the bills than you were paying in bills.
It's ridiculous.
How can that happen? How can that slide under the nose of our elected officials?
It's outrageous. I mean, because of the fact that we technically can't make money, we're government, off of the money that we hold on to. That would be against the law. So we would have to zero out a lot of our accounts to show that we're not basically hoarding money and trying to make money off interest off the money that we have in our accounts. So literally, if we would have $5 in one account, to zero out that account, the county, previous to me coming into office, they would pay a $50 transfer fee just to transfer $5. So we're saving now because we put our banking business out to bid. We now have one bank, M&T Bank. The contract was so old before I came into office that we weren't even allowed to maximize technology. to actually transfer and have our vendors be able to be paid electronically. That's how old the contract was.
But it was a contract. You were able to go in and renegotiate those contracts?
I blew the whole thing up. I scrapped the entire system, and even people in our own office wasn't very happy with it because they were so used to having 6 little fiefdoms within the office of Erie County Controller. I blew the whole contract up. We put it out to bid. We got the best possible bid for our banking business. It was M&T Bank. So now it's like the old credit card commercial. You know, when you see the credit card commercial, you make a payment, you get cash back. I just thought, well, why can't we do that? Sure enough, we do now. We're saving $25,000 a quarter by not having all these different transfer fees amongst all of our banks. And now we're actually getting rebates back to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars just for paying our bills. Prior to me taking office, only 6% of our vendors were paid electronically. What a waste. And now it's up to more than half.
Well, you know, somebody such as yourself who has the inclination to improve things, that seems to be in general, that seems to be the exception to the rule. The underlying cause here, and one of the things that people need to think about, is when somebody is in government, just as a matter of course, they're spending money that's not theirs.
Correct.
They're spending other people's money.
Correct.
So if you put yourself in that position, there's really not a lot of incentive when you're spending somebody else's money to be very efficient with it.
Well, I think it's all where your values are. I mean, I'm Ukrainian, and some people call me cheap. I like to think frugal. I always think when we authorize money or payments that I'm spending money as though it's your money, or even in many cases like it's my own. You know, that's why for furniture, I literally go garbage picking at the county surplus warehouse where everyone else throws out furniture. That's where I go to get new furniture. A cell phone, I pay for my own cell phone. I pay for my own travel when I drive my own car. And I think it's that mentality, it's a value system of this is important. This is not my money. It doesn't belong to politicians. It belongs to people. And I think, Phil, that's the mindset that public servants should have. And unfortunately, most don't.
Well, you know, the average person, you know, when you work 40 hours a week, you know, and you go on and on and on, you kind of get jaded in almost any job. And when you're in a job in government and you're working with other people's money, that's when it becomes dangerous. So your job must really be challenging. You have to have a microscope to put on these things and continuously look at it.
Yeah, and not many people like me, quite frankly. You know, I was complaining to Elfrida Sominski about that, the old controller, and she goes, oh, honey, if you're getting kicked in the rear, it means you're out in front. I'm like, well, I feel like I'm pretty far out in front. I mean, to give you another example, my first day in office, they handed me a benefit sheet. And they said, oh, by the way, here's your massage therapist, here's your acupuncturist. And goofy me, I'm thinking, wow, the controller gets a massage. And they're like, no, every county employee gets that.
Wow.
So I audited that program. $1.4 million taxpayers spent over a 4-year period on massage and acupuncture. So future union contracts, we got rid of it. And I was in the elevator with a fairly larger employee who was kind of big, and right away I get in the elevator and he goes, hey, Mahailu, how about you rub my back and give me a back massage since you got rid of acupuncture? And I just said, no, thank you, very politely, and got off the elevator as quick as possible.
And with that, and with that mental picture,
right.
Stefan.
Scary, very scary.
We're going to have to go to break.
When we come back, a little bit more on county waste and spending.